Yeah, just talking to the camera. I'll hear you.
It's going?
Yeah.
No, it's just amazing that he analyzed them and he decided that fucking TV was their cause. On one level, it's funny that the kids are, the parents say the TV wrecked the kids, and Frank's different. He's saying the TV wrecked his parents.
Yeah.
And that's McLuhan-esque. It's so McLuhan-esque, and it's interesting. When he was, I guess, young, he analyzed he analyzed the situation, and he came up with a McLuhan answer, which really supports me putting him beside McLuhan on the chart.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that till I just read this. I only intuited it. He was born with a fucking new pencil in his hand.
That's Frank about his dad?
No, Zappa about the father about little Frank.
Wow, the utensil.
Yeah, you didn't know that he said, you haven't read this.
Yeah, but I
He's talking about how good of a drawer he was. This is the visual bias, right? This confirmed Frank was essentially a painter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
An eye artist. He won many awards for his art. Children, teenagers, adults, and Frank won all three. He beat the adults. Did you know that? He fucking beat the adults when he was entered in all categories. He would say, "Pop, I'm going to win," and he would. This is not known about him, really, eh?
I don't think so.
I don't think Wally emphasized it enough. When he was 12, he told me he was going to make $1 million, and I believed him. Now let's reverse this. Let's pretend that, Jerry,
I can hear you.
the father is the genius, and he's trying to put attention away from him. So he's making up all these fucking lies. Oh, Frank, he won everything. He beat everybody. You know, he's trying to prop up the puppet. You know what I mean?
Good.
Frank had a goal, and I was sure. I had a goal, but he says Frank had a goal, and I was sure he was going to make it. He said he was going to be wealthy, and I believed him. I knew he would do it. I just didn't know when. Now think of Frank. That's important. How Frank says the most important part is the win, right?
Yeah.
Here's Zappa the Son. I don't think they listened to my music at all. They did go. Now this is what's really interesting. Frank thinks his parents are right out of it, and the father is very proud of Frank, but Frank he's got Frank down on case about how smart he is, how the kids Frank, but Frank thinks they don't understand him at all, and the father say, "What a great guy, what a great artist," and then Frank, the junior, says, "Well, you don't know nothing about me." It's really a disinformation program, Jerry.
Right.
Right? They did go to tour my local concerts over a period of 5 years. I think they thought it was nice I was on stage doing something. Maybe they figured one day they might see me on TV, but they have changed somewhat. They decided maybe it's possible to look like a creep who's still earning a living. They decided, maybe they figured one day they see me, but they have changed somewhat. They decided maybe it is possible to look like a creep who's still earning a living. So they have begun to reevaluate the different lifestyle. My father didn't like it when I was working bars. I think he thought it wasn't really earning an honest living if you earned it in a bar. But he found out that I could earn a living, even while looking like a creep. I think that was one of the most pleasing aspects of the whole deal to him. And the children, when we had their first grandchild, that's when we really made the charts in his father's eyes, right?
Yeah.
I can take any kind of music, from romper to rock. He's Uncle Me talking. I can fuck with any kind of music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can take any kind of music, from opera to rock. I like the classics, Vienna Woods, Scheherazade. That's who Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, that's what Finnegans Wake's about, right?
Yeah.
Look at this, Vienna Woods, that's the fucking Rumpelstiltskin German forest, all right? Scheherazade, I think, is the woman that tells the endless stories to the Emperor so she won't get killed. You know about that? Jerry? If that's who it is, Scheherazade, that's who Finnegan's Wake is a major figure in Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah, you say that in the Ten Thunders.
Oh yeah, did you get a cultural dictionary? You can look it up. Look at this. In music, many are called but few are chosen. Frank is chosen, I know now. This is fucking great. This is great. This is like me talking about Frank, you know what I mean? This is Mr. Zappa following my instructions. This is Mr. Zappa, Senior, following my instructions. A lot of these people are going to fall by the wayside. But Frank will be there forever. He fucking understands, Jerry. This guy, he ran the whole thing. Rock and roll is not the only thing he does. Now, all that Dave Wally said in his biography is that Zappa's father was very proud. All right, Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
The point is, even Frank's father had more confidence than even Wally had of him, of Zappa.
Yeah.
Because he fucking was running the whole show. Rock and roll is not the only thing he does. You should hear some of his progressive jazz. You see, I understand composition. Whether or not I like the sounds, I appreciate the composition, what he does as an artist. I'm very pleased because he composes both the words and the music. This guy is sharp. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
And remember, his father's a musician, so he knows, right?
Yeah.
He is a good, keen observer of the times, which interprets in the field of music. For instance, Plastic Man. What's Plastic Man? He means plastic people?
Could be.
For instance, Plastic Man. Now also, Zappa's father would have been mutated by the. You see, there's where when Frank got busted and they found out the conspiracy. That's when, you know, Mr. Zappa, unless he set it up himself, so that Frank wouldn't be drafted. You know what I mean? I think Mr. Zappa Senior set up the bust on Frank, so he wouldn't be drafted. But the point is, if he wasn't aware, he became aware of that shit, you know, after they got busted, and then he was agreeing with Frank of the corruption around him, and that's when he quit the government. You know what I mean? So this is really neat. He is. It's good you're getting this on tape, Jerry. He's a good, keen observer of the times. He interprets in the field of music. For instance, Plastic Man. Now that's something to conjure with. And Watts Riot. What a good picture of the times. He is a good composer and a good lyricist. This guy is smart. Now remember, he's saying this before anybody else realized that. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I'm very critical of those who play and sing only others' work. The only thing that bugs me is the intensity of music coming out of the box. You know, the intensity coming out of the speakers. I guess he means the loudness, right?
Could be loudness.
And that's what McLuhan used to say, that the older generation, they just didn't have the climate conditioning to handle it. You know what I mean? Think about it. They had little fucking TVs, Jerry, and little radios. And then in 20 years, you got huge speakers. It's just too much for them, right?
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with intelligence or taste. It's just their senses are frozen.
That's Phil's big thing. He hates when it's so loud.
Yeah. Frank's music, to me, is becoming progressively acid. Now, he doesn't mean rock. He means Manipian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there are some of his works I like very much. They reflect the modern approach to modern music. In my time, we had music that was not totally acceptable to our parents. And we survived. In my time, we had music that was not totally acceptable to our parents, and we survived. And they will survive. And we survived, and they will survive. This is a really good interview, Jerry. For good information. And may I say that Frank's music appeals to the more intellectual, not to the average. Like I think of him as a satirist. Look at that, telling the people what's going on in the world. I've said as much since 1969, for fuck's sake. This guy knew. He fucking set this whole thing up. I have great ability. The only thing I feel is that I have not achieved the same financial success as my lesser intelligent people. Just put his own name in there. I think of him as a satirist, telling people what's going on in the world. Frank has great ability. The only thing I feel is that he has not achieved the same financial success as many lesser intelligent people. Oh, here goes the mother. Mrs. Rosemary Zappa. I like ballads, soft music, you know. Not loud, you know, tactile. I particularly like one of Frank's songs, Any Way the Wind Blows, which is a great song. As a matter of fact, on the tape, Wally is hearing Frank play the first rehearsal of Any Way the Wind Blows, and Wally's going, that is a beautiful song. You know, and he's going, he was like, see, like he thought, even ugly Frank, even though he's ugly, he can make, or violent, he can make beautiful songs. It always kept coming back to Wally. The amazing thing. That's on his first album, Freak Out. So, you know, even the mother can dig it, right? I started playing drums in the school orchestra when I was about 12 years old.
Woo!
Which means 53, because he's 12 in December.
Wait, that's Frank or his mom?
This is Frank Jr.
Well, you gotta say who's talking.
Okay. Look at this. If he's about 12 years old, that means if he's 12, it has to be January. You know, he's 12 not till December 52, okay? So you're getting into 53, Jerry. But it's still going back and slipping into 52. He could have been 11 years or 11 months old, you know what I mean? Could have been the fall of 52. So here's the point. He goes to school in grade 12. He'd be going into junior high school, I think.
Yeah, he says on the Midnight Special, get it, Midnight Special TV show, my first composition was, it's probably when he's 13. We'll have to,
Does he go, probably? He's
no, we'll have to review it sometime.
Yeah.
And he says it was a drum solo called Mice.
Doing mice running, which is kinetic space. See, that's the point. He was trying to drum movement because we had stopped moving under tactile conditions. So he was the great kinetic musician because he knew how to work with running, which to him was percussive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and look at mice, Jerry, is just tiny hot rats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's the concept. He just went from little mice to rats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so he's about 12. So what, you know, if you figure out how you guys had grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in you didn't have primary.
Elementary.
You just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, right? Okay.
No, there's junior high school.
No, but your
There's
grade.
grade school, junior high, and high school.
What are the grades? 1 to 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12.
Something like that.
Okay, so what if you start when you're 1, you know, it used to be a law in Canada that you had to be fucking 5 at a certain point. But let's say he's 5. See, would he start in our system? He might not have started until he was 3 months before 6 years old. You had to be 5, but he's not 5 till December. You know what I'm saying? He's 1. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in December 45 is 5. Can you assume that he went to school when he was not quite 5? That's what you don't know.
You know what we should do?
We have to figure out he graduated in 58, so he's 12 years later, 46. So he started in 46. So 46, he's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he's in 46. He's in grade 1. He's going to be 6 soon. He's in grade 1, 46. So he starts the grade in the number. He's 8, 9, 50, 52. So he starts the grade in the number. So 52, he's in grade 7. See, that's a key number. 1, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. He's in his first year in junior high school. He's just getting into puberty. He's 12, 12 going on 13. Was it 46? He's 6. But he's not quite 6. So he's not quite 7. He's not quite 12. And it's 52. Because if you make it 53, he's 53. Yeah, he's 18. He's going to be 18 in 1958, but he graduates in June, so he's not 18 yet. I think it works that way. So, so 52 is 6. He's 12. So he's 11, becoming 12. So he's 12 in 1953 for a year. Okay, and then so it's his first year in junior high school. Well, that's what's happened. I started playing drums at school when I was about 12 years old. I don't think they like the drums, but they like that better than my other hobbies, which had some of his parents. I don't think they like the drums, but they like that better than my other hobbies, which have been explosive and electricity. Explosive. He's never said electricity, Jerry. And that's Beefheart's song. You know what I mean? Explosives, which is hardware, and electricity is software. He's working tactility. He's working both. Remember, Frank has probably redefined this as he's older to create the conceptual continuity. You know what I mean? But he's got hardware and software there, right? Explosives and electricity. I perform mysterious experiments with carbon arc treatment of snails and other forms of life. That's genetic engineering. He's manifesting the discovery of DNA in 1953. I never did anything to a real animal, though. We were poor and they couldn't afford drums first. I was lucky to get sticks. I'm going to stop talking, Jerry. It'll give me a headache. So I'll just see if I... Sticks. He started, now this clears something up. He used to say he got his guitar when he was 21, but here he got his guitar, he's saying with the guitar when I was about 18, which would mean last year in high school, because we know he played guitar on the high school outdoor lawn. So that's his last year, he's 12, all right? I mean, he's 18, he's not even 18. He always has to say when I was about 18, because he ain't going to be that until the end of the year. So... well, we assume it's acoustic guitar because he goes, and then I got my first acoustic guitar when I was 21. So what's there's a difference there, right?
Because I know Motorhead told me Frank was the weird guy who played the guitar on the high school lawn.
Zappa the father. The first music Frank played was on the guitar. Now, Frank played on the drums, so that's not accurate, right? You see, I played the guitar that was always around. All my kids learned the guitar, so I'm inclined to think that it was here. Yeah, I mean, his father played. He's saying, you know, they're all it was because of him they played. He was programming them.
He wanted to take credit for the instrument he used.
Yeah. So he's, but the point is,
that's why he's saying he started on guitar.
Yeah, but he's hinting that he's hinting that he programmed Frank, right?
Yeah.
Then he took up the drums. But probably it's true. Fucking Frank has it backwards. You know what I mean? Then my father made me compose the thing mice. Well, Tommy, you know, obviously the genius behind Mr. Frank was his father. His father taught him everything. His father programmed him. Fucking talk about a government scientist MK Ultra victim. See how Tom replies to that. That'll be postgraduate interview with Bob, right? Then he took up the drums. I bought him a set of drums. And that's when I put him and the drums out. And that's when I put him and the drums out the garage. No shower, no bath, no food, no hot water. Then I really became a creep. My father worked most of his life for the government. Because of that, he had to qualify for security clearance. Well, you know, it's the robot. The cyborg voice. My father worked for government.
Government clearance. Security clearance.
You know, I think Frank, he's watching this. He's laughing his head off because somebody has finally figured out what Frank was doing, right?
Broke the code.
Yeah, he says, who's going to make me laugh? No one can make him laugh because they didn't get his joke, right? We broke the code. He's laughing. McLuhan, Beater, they're all Christopher. They're now going to have an accurate portrayal of Zappa's life, right? My father worked for the government. I think
when Tommy walks in the door, we have one of those cow prods.
Who is walked in? Tommy Mars, 8:50, security clearance, only for 3 weeks. Okay. So he says, I think several times he felt that my conduct in high school would affect his clearance. because his father was a fucking CIA agent, Frank was jeopardizing the fucking project, you know? He had gone, you know, like, he programmed this Frank to become creep. Then Frankenstein went out of control, and he had to keep away from the house because they're there. It's just like, it was like, they say in Oklahoma, the ATF was not in the building because they were tracking Terrence McVeigh, and they lost him. They couldn't find him, and they panicked. He went off the remote thing because the the Iraqi guy fucking triggered, disconnected the pacer, you know, the E-terror. So you can just see that whole imagery that you have. Now that's Henning Ronner's thing is applicable.
Henning Loner.
If you, all that Frankenstein stuff does not make sense if you think of Frank making his work. But if you see that's Frank's father, oh my fuck, it's on a controller back and head goes, zzz. Well, you're going to just have to keep him away from your house. Well, it's my son. I got to let him in the house. No, the DI says, no, you can't have him around. This will blow up. This will blow up project. Just fucking ignore him for 9 months.
And now look at this. Frank carried it on and did it to his family, and the kids are all fucking, he did it so good, they're robots and they'll never leave the house. I'm fucking 54-year-old, I'm still living at home with my mother.
And Wally goes, man, did he fuck up those kids?
They're like,
Dave Wally
we will take no drugs, we are 100% drug-free body.
We are Donnie Marie, the alternative version.
Normal life. But
I like to listen to Wally because he gives the raw view of it from his view is that what a fucked up family, you know what I mean? And he's intuiting the government project, you know what I mean?
Woo! This is a whole new spin, Bob.
Yeah, we're laughing at this one, and we're getting it on tape. I think several times he felt that my conduct in high school would affect his clearance. Because remember the Evergreens say it's going to be known as the Zappa era. So Mr. Zappa Sr. programmed the whole counterculture. We got to send this information to LaRouche. He's been concentrating on Alan Watson, Huxley, and Gregory Bateson. It's Mr. fucking Zappa. and the central scrutinizer at the UFO base out in Edwards and Mojave Desert, you know? It would affect his clearance because I kept being almost thrown out. And now, this is where Frank is wrong, and thus affect his earning power. Mr. Zappa was not concerned about money at all, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He was concerned about other levels, that they were running a new experiment, probing, and they didn't know what would happen. But they didn't want me to move out particularly probably for fear I might do something even worse. There's the Frankenstein, right? They had to keep tabs on him. So they wanted to keep me at home, sort of in protective custody. I moved out when I was 18. Then I moved back in for a while for lack of funds. Then finally got out of the joint when I was about 21. So 3 years. That's ridiculous. 3 years, he's 21. See, it's always about... He probably always thinks in terms of the autumn, like everybody does, like Calvin. You always think of what school you were going into that fall, you know what I mean? But he's never quite the age. He's 20, so that'd be 1960. Now, and he says he's married to Kay for 5 years, and he breaks up with Kay by 62, so where's the 5 fucking years?
He's married to Kay for 5 years?
So on Freakout. Lived with her and married for 5 years. Then I got a divorce.
Huh.
Check it. The timing does. He's living at home till he's 20, almost 21.
Carol, I got something!
Well, the flea market is every second Saturday.
Oh.
So I went to the health food store.
Oh, great.
I got Bobby some juice.
Good. Okay, Karen, we're working here, so we're really analyzing. We're right now, McLuhan, Beater, Duchamp, Krishmer, Zappa are sitting up there listening to me explain this father thing. They're laughing their heads off. We really cracked the code here. It's really funny. My parents never. Okay, yeah, you got to do him. My parents never actually tried to force me to follow in their lifestyle, but because of. See, he thought they were.
Of course.
Yeah, they wanted him to become the creep. It was a probe. But because, that's why, you know, some people say Zappa worked for the CIA. Dave Emery's right. Zappa worked for the CIA, but it was under his father's auspices. You know what I mean?
McGrady's chart is right.
Yeah. Who was Zappa part of in that chart?
I forgot.
But because of the things they didn't allow me to do, I felt I was getting into that situation. Look at this. There's a lot of reverse psychology going on here. My parents never actually tried to force me to follow in their lifestyle, but because of things they didn't allow me to do, I felt I was getting in a situation. In other words, they said, you can't do that, knowing that he'd go do it to set the experiment. And he fell into the trap. He says, I tried to quit high school, but my father insisted for the sake of the family I should go to college. For the sake of the family. The Zappa family trust, Jerry. The oligarchy is right in the fucking the copyright family. Zappa Fondo, you know what I mean? Zappa Fondo. I said it was a waste of time. This offended because he went to college. It was getting tricky, you know. Frank was getting, he was programmed, but he was, they didn't know how much to push it, and yet they had to push it to get Frank to really go extreme, which they wanted him to do. So his father would bullshit him and said, "Oh no, college is very important. I went to college, very important." Then Frank would react to that. I mean, they're not standard parents exactly. They are kind of weird in a way. No, they're kind of weird. We are coneheads. We are. Frank would come in as a little kid and he'd hear his father with his wife. And he would freak Frank out. You know what I mean? I mean, they're not like the parents you see on television. You know, William Bendix. Who's William Bendix?
Father knows best.
Father knows best. Exactly.
Is that his real name?
Yeah.
Probably.
Because you got Ozzie and Harriet, who actually they used their real names as characters, right? But William Bendix didn't.
No, that's his.
Right?
I think that's his actor name. I think that's his real name.
Real name. Ozzie and Harriet is a real name, but also their character name, right?
That's right.
Yeah. He goes there, underline there. The journalist underlined their parents. Their parents, Bendix. And mine are not like them. See, he was fucking CIA. He was solar government, you know what I mean? Frank knew it. He knew there was something weird to this guy. You had believe, Carol, how much Zappa's father praises Frank.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, it's incredible. You got to read this. He goes through, he says exactly what I was saying since 68, 69. He's saying this, he knew this right away. It's really incredible what he says about Frank. He's very perceptive, but I think he programmed Frank. That it's his project. Who is Uncle Meat? It's his father. Who's Reuben and the Jets? Frank is Reuben and the mothers of the Jets. The father is Uncle Meat. Many people thought Frank was Uncle Meat. But it's Mr. Zappa who's Uncle Meat. And Studebaker Hawk is always, because Frank would have references to himself in the Studebaker Hawk character. Frank is Studebaker Hawk controlled by headquarters. Right?
Yeah.
Billy the Mountain is fucking Mr. Zappa and Ethel's the little wife, the little tree. What? You equivocate, Carolyn?
No, I'm wondering if I can sleep in there beside you without being photographed.
Well, I'm almost finished this. Zappa the father. I had hoped he would follow something like what I had done. Yes. Yes, he goes like a road. Yes.
Bob, let's change location so she can sleep.
No, let her. Well,
no, because she went to the
She
store.
needs to hear this, Jerry. She should hear. Shut up. She needs to hear this for a while before she goes to sleep.
For a while, you said I'm almost finished.
I am almost. I had hoped he would follow something like what I had done. Yes.
Do we observe discrepancy?
Yes.
Here, let me just, Bob, hold it 1 second. Carolyn, if you put some potatoes in the water thing, then I'll make hash browns.
Okay.
So they'll be ready to eat whenever you want them for your mid-lunch.
Okay.
I'd hope he'd follow something like what I'd done. Yes, he sort of says, yes, I agree. I would want him to take over the CIA project. But later I realized that this was not his bag and he couldn't do it. He fucking couldn't do it. He had to control it. He had to work overtime. Frank
couldn't do what? What's it?
He couldn't become the CIA agent that the father is.
Right.
You know,
that Frank said that?
The father says, I had hoped he would follow something like what I had done. Yes, I admit that I had hoped he would. But later realized that this was not his bag. He was too fucking stupid and he couldn't do it.
He doesn't say stupid.
No. Well, but Jerry, can you prove that, Bob? What you done? But later I realized that this was not his bag. That's a polite way of saying it.
Oh my God, he's trying to be hip.
Yeah, and he couldn't do it. I wouldn't want him to do something that was not his bag. Bullshit. When he was in high school, he was a quite active individual, if you know what I mean. That means, like he said, to Wally, speaking before the people at the assembly. He was like a big man on campus on an intellectual level, probably. You know what I mean? The guy who could mouth off about whatever stupid issues they thought they had to deal with. And remember, he was a civil rights activist at that point. He was real early on that. You know what I mean?
Who? Frank was by singing the Watts. Yeah.
By having Martin Luther King or whatever those civil rights things that came, NAACP stuff.
Yeah.
He was intellectual and liberal in that sense.
Yeah.
Right? Active individual. If you know what I mean, he said. If you know what I mean. But then we moved. I guess that's after he was out of high school. And like Segovia said, he quotes, see, his father quotes the fucking cultural heritage. Like Segovia said, he was his own best teacher and his own best student. But he quotes somebody, right? His father is cultured, right? He quit college because he didn't think college could teach him anything about music. Each new age, oh, look at this. Each new age has its own particular likes and directions. Climate, okay? That's he saying McLuhan. The McLuhan stuff Frank got from his father. And I'm proud of Frank because he created his own style, his own sounds. This shows ingenuity, you know, like it's the principle, like good marks. This essay shows good ingenuity. Give him a B+ for inaugurating a whole age. This shows ingenuity and imagination. This man is a leader. Gee, that's the whole programming to make him president. Frank was the agency man. Hey, Frank never knew it. And yes, this man is a leader, not a follower, you see. You wanted to create a Frankenstein to have the Sicilian mafia who had taken over the CIA to take over. Mr. Zappa worked for the highest levels of Meyer Lansky's mob, Dope Incorporated.
Ergo.
And the cover was that Frank hated drugs, you know? Ooh. The word freak out. Look at this, look, he's explaining Frank. It's the best explanation of Frank we've ever had from the guy who created him. The word freak out is Frank's original word. He was the first one to use that word, freak out. Now that's questionable, right? He's saying, I mean, did the beatniks not say freak out? You know what I mean?
Look at everything's derivative. He heard some guy say freak, and he's heard someone that I'm freaking out, so he said freak out. So, you know.
Here's the point. What Mr. Zappa is really saying that it was an MK Ultra project, and he and the Mafia, Meyer Lansky, CIA guys created the whole freak out phenomenon, but they're blaming it on Frank. But it's preposterous if you were part of that culture that he never, we all, you know, Frank the Kid, if you got people agreeing that Frank created the word freak out, it's because he was programmed by his father to do it. Because his father, how does his father, who has no knowledge of Frank's weird life, know this? You know what I mean? How does he know what Frank created? Because they were fucking monitoring the whole time. Frank told me in '85, he said, my phone is tapped. Okay? Yeah. It was his father, and the team around his father tapped his fucking phone from the beginning. It means when you don't want to follow, he's explaining what it means. He's like, Uncle Meat, now Frank, you can use the word freak out, this is what it means. It means when you don't want to follow the established order, you broke away from, drop out, quit the government, right? That's Frank's own word. He had to drop out in order to find his own way. He had to drop out in order to freak out. Right?
Right.
In other words, I'm the only one who'll know that you have to quote Frank's father if you do a PhD thesis. Nobody has gone that far, you know what I mean? Wally missed all this. Wally got the impression he has an interesting description of his father, but he didn't get this much. From the Life magazine, you see, the reason this is so censored, the Life magazine guy was working for Mr. Zappa. These fucking quotes never existed. Maybe there's a whole figment there's a Mr. Frank Zappa Sr., but we know there is. But this is a CIA profile via the Life magazine journalist. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's even on, advanced computer printout paper.
Yeah.
Of the '60s. Now they don't get a lot of trouble from their friends about. Now they don't get a lot of trouble from their friends about me. In fact, exactly the opposite. Before my father retired, he worked at Lockheed. Jesus Christ, there's the whole gang. You know, Thane Caesar and them. He fucking worked at Lockheed. May would love that. Before my father retired, he worked at Lockheed, and most of the people he worked with were younger. By that I mean in their 30s and 40s. They would bring in clippings about me or direct his attention to a TV show, stuff like that, being very approving of me. That's a fucking CIA operator. They were father, Mr. Zappa was getting, they killed him in '73. He was fucking getting old and tired, you know what I mean? And they had to say, keep the project going, look, it's working. Mr. Zappa's getting despondent. No, it's banned from Utopia, it just ain't working, you know? I think Frank fucked up, you know? And then they killed him, but they were trying to keep him alive. And look, it's working, Frank's in the media, you know what I mean? These are the higher-ups programming his father, you know what I mean? You got it?
Yeah.
His father had been talking to Pamela Zarubica, and Pamela said, Frank fucked up in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Zarubic is the fucking cheese. She's the one she's the Mata Hari, the one who seduces Frank she was probably Mr. Zappa's senior's mistress. Or at least his Mr. Zappa.
Then you send in Gail with her dad in the
military. Oh, that was a counterfaction. That's why See, Mr. Zappa wanted Frank to marry Pamela, but the non-mafia faction, the Wasp Mafia, sent in Gale to get rid of Zarubica, and that depressed Mr. Zappa, though he wasn't sure of what was happening, because he said he was proud about the grandchildren, but by 73 he probably realized, oh, fuck, got despondent, or they killed him. Maybe he was confident that the Zarubica effect worked, and he was confident in Gale's faction had to kill him. Okay? That's Watergate. Watergate was all about Zappa. Nixon, Dickie, such an asshole.
Make the water turn black.
Yeah. I tell you about Corbin. He freaked out. I'll do that later. I said an interesting thing to him after my first speech at the panel, Midnight Special. Yeah, Midnight Special. And he told me what it meant. I didn't know it last night. They would bring in clippings about me, directed attention to TV shows, stuff like that, being very proven. They made it feel like he had accomplished something. So he'd speak in glowing terms about my exploits, having very little idea what some of those exploits were. Here's where Frank is considerably mistaken, you know what I mean? Frank has this idea, he has to have this idea that he's rebelling against his father. But it's all programmed that for him to think that. Zappa the father. I think Frank is finally getting the fame, and deservedly so. I'm proud as a parent, sure, but you have to take these things as a matter of course. And what course was he on? Programming the bigger agenda. This was just the beginning. This was just phase one. Phase one, Jerry. Because they couldn't get distracted by the effects of phase one. Junior, you have to understand that my father worked as a barber. Well, you know the idea of cutting your hair and growing your nerve endings? So remember, the key archetype is hair in the 60s. And what is Mr. Zappa supposedly? A fucking barber. Bullshit, he's a barber. You know what I mean? You have to understand your father works as a barber while he's working to put himself through school. He used to cut my hair all the time when I was a little kid. As a teenager, he refused to cut it anymore. He refused to cut it anymore. The long hair was offensive to his artistic sensibilities. I mean, I must have refused to stylize it if it was getting long, right?
To trim the long locks, maybe.
Yeah, he wouldn't deal with the longer hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that was all set up because that was a project to have Frank be one of the earliest people to grow the hair long because Mr. Barber knew what to do. You see, they were setting him up. The long hair was offensive to his artistic sensibilities. Then my father took a teaching job in Florida. Now, when would that be? He must have gone back. Oh, you know, yeah, when did Frank left California when he was 10, right? You might want to check the book, Jerry, get the dates here. This is weird, because he's playing drums on the West Coast, isn't he? Something weird, he started writing lyrics to songs, and one of them was about the persecution of people with long hair. Oh, okay, it is later, Jerry.
Okay.
He actually moved back to Florida. Look at this. This proves my point. Mr. Zappa writes a song about the persecution of people with long hair, proving that he's for long hair, which was what they originally... He's now celebrating the fact that Frank's revolution that he organized broke through and created the long hair thing, and then he writes a celebrating song. And Frank says, it amazed me that the father wrote about long hair. Ooh, this is a key point that Frank he doesn't figure it out, but his father's different than he expected, right? Like he probably had to move to Florida for fucking MK Ultra matters, and he moved, and Frank just found a fucking memo to the higher. It's great, long hair is taking over. You know what I mean? It wasn't a song; it was a memo reporting on the success of the project. Then my father took a teaching job in Florida. A teaching job, software, you know, bureaucracy, in the military. And something weird happened. He started writing lyrics to songs, and one of them was about the persecution of people with long hair. Really, it amazed me. Zappa the father. His hair, well, like everything else, you have to understand modern times. You have to understand the medium of the message, is what he's saying. You know, modern times, also the people's sensibilities, all right? We accept it on the basis that he is his own son. He is his own son. And he was so handsome when he was in high school, too, you know. See, that's the point. Frank was eligible, Carol, to be the leader, the program leader, the James Dean, because he was handsome in the first. People don't know over time, but Frank was handsome. He was a perfectly groomed kid, like John Kennedy was for his father to take over the White House. He was a perfect kid to be the one to program the guy, right? To be the pro. And he was so handsome when he was in high school too, you know, with short hair. And he would be again without all that foliage. That's just cover. That's just distortion. You know, pretending that he's against the long hair. I think that the long hair is simply because the hair is part of playing the music. That's true. I mean, he's totally aware of the designing of Frank's image to infiltrate, right? The whole hair business was started by the Beatles, whom I consider first class in music. Now, this could be, you know, Mr. Zappa is the House of Lancaster versus the House of York, you know what I mean? And he knew they had to really work hard to beat the Beatles, whom I consider first class in music. And in order to make their music effective, they affected the hair to get attention. And I also think it was because their music was like the music of other times. They imitated the hair of other times, too. Now, that's Marshall talked about that, the way pop culture is mosaic, a moire, a pun on different times, because under TV conditions, all times are happening. It's a movie replay, so you have to have many musicals and many styles embedded in your image. So he understands this. Because their music was like the music of other times. They imitate the hair of other times, too. Did people know that? Yeah, the British mod, you know, the Georgian era, the mod retrieval, right? But he's quite conscious of, you see? End of quote. Then finally, the mother says a couple of things, Carol. She says, the only thing that makes me mad about his hair is that it's curlier than mine and blacker. In other words, that's what my mother used to complain that about my hair. In other words, she likes his hair. See, she's not a dummy, you know what I mean? She's the quiet little pretending she's the housewife. She probably runs this project, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You remind me.
She's the mother.
Let me tell you something off. Hold on. Let me stop.
Something goes.
Okay. It came running in, figuring out Gail. We figured out the conspiracy. I looked at the clock. It was 10:22. Okay. And Mrs. Zappa's still alive, right? As far as you know. Okay. Zappa the son. While we were in London for 4 months, my folks stayed at my house. Now this is 70-71. I have all these super creep friends, you know, and some of them are not very friendly or appealing. It provided a constant stream of absurdist entertainment from my parents, but I think they enjoyed it. He goes, but no, they were watching the studying the effects. They knew this is what we created. They were enjoying it. He couldn't figure out why they fucking enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
My father thinks that because these people are peripherally associated with show business, they must have a reason for being the way they are. And I warned them that they might be seeing some apparitions. I mean, when at 2:30 a.m. Wildman Fisher appears on your porch, it might be a little disturbing. Zappa's father. Look at this. I am an educator by experience, so I'm interested in people, young or old. This is a CIA guy talking. And I don't approve or disapprove. He uses the technique of suspended judgment, Jerry, as any intelligent person does. You know what I mean? He doesn't use value judgment. I just accept people as they are. I have more understanding than most people of my age. Yeah! This is all obvious, isn't it? That's why they couldn't fucking print it. Mr. Zappin said anyone was starting to crack up, and he blew the cover, and Life says, we can't print this, and they'll know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They suppressed the secret document. Who's this fucking Coleman Andrews?
Don't say.
Is that his name? Coleman Andrews. We gotta check him out, man. How did he have this? They were fucking monitoring Jerry because they knew Dobbstown would be set up here. Oh boy. So Mary. Now look at Joe and Mary. Your ex-wife Mary. What was she a victim of? They sent her back to Las Vegas, and she couldn't take the fucking heat. Something happened there, Jerry. You had to call up Mary, send her this tape so she can understand what the hell happened to her. She was a victim of the fucking CIA surveillance. You guys were just dupes in this larger project and didn't know what was going on. I have more understanding than most people my age. Who make judgments about people. No normal mind parent would be saying this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They don't say this stuff. Right? I have more understanding than most people my age. Mr. Zappa must be up there sitting there with Frank. Look, you know, like he's there laughing his head off too, right? I have more understanding than most people my age who make judgments about people. I'm tolerant of what these other people want to do. I mean, just look at me. I've got my own style. I'm hip. I give everybody the right to do what they want. See, this was their cultural plan to fucking create anarchy. I give everybody the right to do what they want. I just say they must be tolerant of me. That's a total Uncle Meat attitude. You know what I mean? Zappa the son. in light of this, we'll have to reread Wally's statement about Mr. Zappa later. Just look how he describes his father.
Yeah.
You know, what would be funny is to make a dub of this and play this for Nige. Just play it flat out. They'd laugh their heads out, wouldn't they? Zappa the son. My father has a secret. No, what? Maybe I'll just tell Nige. Nige's a big breakthrough. Since she thinks he's queen of the dataist or the pataphysicist of L.A., then Bob has to come into his own and out-pataphysics her, or at least, stimulate her on that level, right?
Yeah.
My father has a secret. Look at this. My father has a secret ambition to be an actor. He even has an agent. Frank knew something was. Frank, in his naivety, projects his whole showbiz thing on his father, right? He even has an agent. Like one day, Frank, when he's a kid, goes in and there's this man stranger talking to Mr. Zappa, planting everything else, and Frank goes, Dad, who's this guy? Oh, this is my agent. I'm gonna go to Hollywood, and he actually meant literally the agent. You know what I mean? This is my controller.
Don't bother him, son.
Yeah. He even has an agent. Look at this. Frank could be. He even has these people coming over to his house with uniforms and agency stuff.
Not, why do you talk like that?
Oh, well, look what he said. Look. He even has an agent, not just for his gambling book, which is a total fucking red herring, right? But for both things. He is working full speed ahead on a show business career. That's Tetrad management, okay? They're taking over the software environment. He secretly wants to be on TV. At the very least, he wants to be a bartender or maybe a barber in a restaurant. His perception of show business as a way of life is very limited because he has never gotten close enough to it for it to be dangerous. Now, there's where Frank's really mistaken. His father knows how dangerous it is and is not in show business. You know what I mean? He just has his son work in the bullshit show business world. You got that?
Yeah.
Because his father does know how dangerous it is. I heard a click, I think. Does that end? Does the tape end, Jerry?
Oh.
I think I heard a click.
Going.
Zappa the father. What I've never achieved in my life, my children are going to do. And so is Dweezil, and the Dweezil's kids move. There's a whole Zappa oligarchy. What I've never achieved in my life, my children are going to do. Sounds like a mafia godfather. You see, I had to keep my nose to the grindstone to make sure they could do these things. We had to kill a lot of people to do this. I had to work for those kids. He has underlined it. I had to work for those kids, so it wasn't because of any lack of ability, you understand, but because of the times, because of the situation. See, that's McLuhan's law of the situation. Situation is a tetrad term. He's totally aware of figure ground here. My daughter plays the guitar. To make sure that, see, he programmed his the Renaissance here, right?
Yeah.
What he thinks is the Renaissance. My daughter plays the guitar too and writes music. There's Candy, substitute Frank. I've been writing lyrics with her. Oh yes, I write lyrics, and now I have several record contacts. Oh yes, of course, there's my book. I've been getting a lot of publicity about that. Oh yes, a lot of publicity. Look at that, Jerry. He's totally conscious of his con game he's playing, right?
Yeah.
Then Frank says, we just don't discuss politics. Well, why would they? They know politics is a front. You know what I mean? It's a Republican trick, and Frank's father can't tell him what's really going on, so they don't discuss it. I do remember as a child listening to my father rant and rave about how low all Republicans were. That's the same thing Frank is a robotoid repeated. Because the mafia and the unions, the mafia, the Democrats, right? And they're against the WASP establishment. I do remember as a child. See, this could be the Yankee-Cowboy War, and, Mr. Zappa is part of the cowboy culture. Or he could be part of the Yankee culture, sent out to the cowboy culture to infiltrate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From Baltimore. They do tetrad management. That's the studying of it is in Baltimore. That's where they made the breakthrough in the 80s, Jerry. Fucking in Baltimore.
Who was it?
Oh, I don't know if I have his name in my memory.
But okay.
This is
But it's a university or who's?
No, the guys who are implementing the tetrad before McLuhan's book came out. When they saw McLuhan's book, they said, "Holy fuck! This is McLuhan's got the tetrads down better than we." And they used McLuhan's tetrad to refine what they already had discovered on their own. This was the political wing of the Defense Department.
Well, that's what I mean. It's Defense Department.
Yeah, I do remember as a child listening to my father rant and rave about how low all Republicans were. Then, Mr. Father, I'm very strong in the field of. Well, look at this. I'm very strong in the field of politics. And to the kid, the son doesn't even think he's in politics. You know what I mean? Doesn't even think he's. Well, they won't discuss it. So why wouldn't they discuss it if they both agree that how low the Republicans were, right?
Right.
Now look, I'm very strong. That means he's a big person behind the scenes. I'm very strong in the field of politics. You see, I was very strong as a historian, as well as in math. You see, the thing is that all oligarchs are historians. That's LaRouche's main point. Why did Prince Charles and them go to Oxford? They learned history, Jerry. You don't learn history, you don't know what's going on in the oligarch sense. You see, I was very strong as a historian as well as in math. And Frank, in the end, concedes in his fucking book that he got his whole world picture from his father.
Yeah.
So his father embedded his history in his son, right?
Yeah.
My children know I'm politically oriented. They have learned my point of view in the manner of discussion, but not necessarily to adopt it. Their acceptance is due to their mental attitude. They do not accept things just because I am their father. My kids have to be shown, but these kids agree with their old man. My parents' attitudes and values were based on Zappa, the son. My parents' attitudes and values were based on information and knowledge that was very thin and scant. Those values were not workable for me. Instead of just rejecting them entirely and hating my parents. See, look, he's imitating his father. He has a technique of suspended judgment. Instead of just rejecting them entirely and hating my parents, which seems to have been a very 50s thing to do, I thought I'd better look at some of the reasons why they had those values. See, there's where Frank is infiltrating, pretending he's a rebel with an anti-establishment point of view. He doesn't. He learned it from his father, right? The punchline's on the last page, page 11, Jerry, half of 22. That proves it right there. Zappa the father. I went out and made money because I had to be sure that these kids had everything they needed. We were very oriented family-wise. Nightclubs and things were not for us. He was working overtime to set up his CIA project, right? You know, and Long John Smothers says in that documentary, many people think Frank is working for the mafia. The mafia brought him up. That fits.
Right.
His father. But it may be a higher level of the mafia. You know, the guys who programmed the mafia.
Yeah.
Now, the mother has the last word. Frank was always more outgoing than the other children. He's not like me, retiring. In my family, we all stayed with the family. And when we went to work, we still stayed at home and paid room and board. What's that mean? Still stayed at home and paid room and board. You know what that means? If you're staying, it must mean that they somehow, I don't know.
Carried their own weight. You know?
Oh yeah, they all stayed at home like the kids. Like
they stayed at home
and paid for their mother. They paid their Mr. and Mrs. Zappa.
Yeah.
And that's what the kids may do.
The kids work and they go home and they give their parents rent money.
Right, because they're nice. They're not a family mixing with the peasants. You know what I mean? They're programmers. They're oligarchs.
Yeah.
CIA. They don't socialize, and they don't let their kids get involved with other people because they control the family. Right? Right?
Yeah, but for the tape's sake, you should tell everybody you're saying that metaphor.
No, I'm saying this fucking as a fact. You're stupid, Jerry. You mean this metaphor? No, Jerry.
I love it.
You fucking idiot.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, okay. And we didn't leave home until we decided to get married. Now, she's talking about her own life when she was a kid. We didn't leave home until we decided to get married. But as times got older, everyone wants to move out on their own. And I must say, I like it. The mother says she fucking like it. It contradicts the whole image you have of her, right? She wanted this to happen. They created the fucked up counterculture. I remember Frank at his grandmother's house. He always wanted to dress up in costumes and act. And that's a little like what he's doing. They programmed him so fucking early.
Wow.
And it ends with this number, EA5:22P.
Wow.
Then it says more later, RBVV 17 NYKAB 822P. They fucking more later. We don't have the whole stuff here, Jerry.
Well,
more reports. It's just a CIA briefing memo. This is a CIA memo.
we're lucky we got that. Now don't. Okay,
That's it. I got to get on the tape, Jerry. I got to get going.
Bob.
What?